Hi, it's Alexis Hasselberger, time management and productivity coach. It's a new year. It's 2023. How did this happen? Where did the time go? I don't know about you, but for me, it seems to go faster and faster every single year. I think it's probably simply because, right, every year is a smaller percentage of our lives than the year before it, right? So it seems to go faster. I don't know. In any case, we are at the cusp of another year. It is 2023. And what this means is that it's time for a little annual planning, right? How does that make you feel? Do you do annual planning? Does it scare you? Does it feel like a waste of time? I mean, December is so far away anyways, right? Is it something that maybe you aspire to do, but it's hard to just make the time to make it happen? It's hard to figure out when you're going to do it, or maybe you really want to, but it just seems like really big and amorphous. How are you even going to do it? Well, never fear, because I am here to show you a low effort, high reward strategy to get a little annual planning in there. So one thing is that you can just download right now, down there, you can download a annual planning guide. It is a resource that I have created for you that is going to walk you through the process so that you could create an annual plan for yourself in under an hour, maybe even half an hour, right? Just depends. And so I would love it if you are feeling like, I've always wanted to do some annual planning. I just don't really know where to start. Or maybe I've done it in the past, but it always took me forever. Is there an easier way? Grab this resource, grab this PDF. You can click on the link down below and you can get that straight into your inbox. But what I want to talk about here today is just what does that contain, right? What is a low effort planning strategy? How do we do this in a way that feels good? And it doesn't feel like it takes so much time. So here's what I want you to do. There's kind of 3 big steps here. The first one is to brainstorm some goals. So both personal and professional goals. Now, maybe you have a backlog of goals and you can just go look through it and decide on a couple that you want to really embark on over the next year. Or maybe you don't have any kind of backlog and now is just a great time to do some brainstorming, right? So sit down, brainstorm for maybe 10 minutes, all the things you can think of that you might want to accomplish within the next year, personally and professionally. And then what I want you to do is whittle that down. Select just a few, like no more than 3 big goals for your personal life or big goals for your work life, right? For your professional life. Because if we do more than that, we are just going to spread ourselves way too thin. Now, if you finish all of those goals way before the year is up, fantastic. Assign yourself some more goals, but don't get yourself too overwhelmed in the beginning, right? We want to whittle that down, narrow it down so that we're focused on just a few things. Now, the next step that you want to do is going to be around doing a round of what we call keep, start, stop. And so what does this mean? It means taking stock of the things going on right now and first saying, okay, what are the things that are working really well for me? Practices that I'm doing, habits, what are the things that are going well that I want to intentionally keep doing, right? Make sure that these don't drop off. Then, what are some things that I might want to start doing? So maybe some of these are related to your goals, or maybe they are some practices. Maybe you want to start going to bed a little earlier, or maybe, you want to start exercising a little more. I don't know, whatever they are. Is there anything that you would like to start doing? And then the last one I think is the most important, and it is, what do you want to stop doing, right? Are there things that you have been doing that just aren't serving you anymore, right? Are there committees you're on that you want to be off of? Are there practices that you have been continuing with that don't seem to be really giving you any rewards? Are there things that you can take off your plate? Are there things you can outsource? Are there things you can delegate? But what do you want to stop doing, right? And this is really important because there's momentum to things, right? Sometimes we get started with something and there's no reason to stop. And so we don't stop. And then we're, 10 years later, we're still doing that thing, even though it just doesn't really help us and we don't really find it enjoyable. So what are you going to stop doing? So keep, start, stop. And then the third phase is to come up with a word of the year or a phrase of the year that you want to be kind of your North Star. Now, if you're listening to me and you're saying this sounds super woo-woo, I don't want to do this. I get it, right? The first many times I heard people talking about a word of the year, I poo-pooed the whole thing. I was like, whatever, that is not for me. But I kept hearing people talking about, doing a word of the year or a phrase of the year and how it had affected their lives. And enough people that I trust and respect told me about this that I thought, you know what, before I, just cast this off entirely, I'm going to try it myself and I'm going to see what happens. And so I did that several years ago. I came up with a word of the year. It was, I believe the first word I ever had was build. It was at the very beginning when I was starting my business. And what this word did for me was it helped me to have a kind of North Star, an overarching reason for the year, if you will. And so when it was build, I used this to mean all sorts of things: build connections, build relationships, build the business, build, my products, like all of this stuff, build, build, build. And what this helped me to do was, in times where I didn't want to do that, it helped me move forward. So I'm an introvert. There were times where I really needed to go to conferences. I needed to network. I needed to talk about myself and my business. And this is super, super duper uncomfortable for me. And by saying, no, this year is about building, I was able to kind of get myself out of my head and say, yeah, I need to build connections. I need to meet people. I need to do these things. That's what I'm trying to do this year. I'm trying to build. And so every year since then, I have found this to be really helpful. And so I have done it year after year. And it really does help to provide a sense of direction for the year. That can be something that applies in so many different areas. I remember one time I had a client and she said her word was going to be invest. And I loved this word because you can use it in so many different ways. So she meant not only, take on, recalibrating her financial investments, but also that she wanted to invest time in herself, that she wanted to invest time in some of her hobbies, that she wanted to really think about investing. How do I put something in and reap the greater rewards later? That was what drove her year. And so a lot of the decisions that she was making, they were based on this word invest. And I found that to be really helpful for myself too when I've done this. So those are kind of the three big steps. Of course, in the guide, you'll get way more details, but I wanted to give you just a quick overview here. If you have put off annual planning because it just feels too big, too amorphous, or like, I'm scared to get started, this guide will get you started, right? Just follow it step by step, and you will be in a better place than you were before you started. So if you like this kind of content and you want to keep seeing me in 2023, make sure to subscribe so that I will show up in your feeds every single week.
I just want to take this moment to tell you that we only have 17.3% of the people that watch our videos are actually subscribed. So, yeah. So, what about you subscribe?